Picture this. You're 14 years old, standing in a marble palace that stretches beyond anything you've ever imagined. Golden columns tower above you like monuments to the gods themselves, and servants bow so low their foreheads nearly touch the polished floors. You should feel powerful. After all, you're wearing the crown of the greatest empire the world has ever known. But instead, your hands shake as you grip the ceremonial staff, because tomorrow you'll be forced into a marriage that will haunt you for the rest of your life. The bride isn't some foreign princess chosen for political alliance. She isn't even a stranger. She's your own sister, and this union will seal your fate in ways that no 14-year-old should ever have to comprehend. This is the story of Ptolemy XIII, a boy who inherited an empire but lost his childhood, his freedom, and ultimately his life to a system that treated royal blood like a commodity to be preserved at any cost. What you're about to hear isn't just another tale of ancient excess. It's the story of how power can corrupt entire civilizations, how tradition can become a prison, and how a child can be sacrificed on the altar of dynastic ambition. Before we dive into this forgotten nightmare of royal abuse and political manipulation, if you enjoy uncovering the hidden truths behind history's most disturbing stories, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please, comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient tragedies together from different corners of the world, connected across time and space by our shared fascination with the darkest chapters of human civilization. The year is 51 BC, and the Mediterranean world trembles before the might of Rome. But in the ancient city of Alexandria, another power still holds sway: the Ptolemaic dynasty, descendants of Alexander the Great's general, who claimed Egypt as his prize 3 centuries earlier. This isn't the Egypt of the pharaohs that most people imagine. This is a Greek kingdom built on Egyptian soil, where Macedonian rulers have maintained their bloodline through practices that would horrify even their contemporaries. You are Ptolemy XIII, and your world is about to collapse in ways you cannot possibly understand. Your father, Ptolemy XII, has just died, leaving behind a kingdom teetering on the edge of civil war and a succession crisis that will determine whether the last great Hellenistic monarchy survives or falls to Roman ambition. But you don't know any of this yet. All you know is that powerful men in flowing robes are whispering in corners, their voices dropping to urgent murmurs whenever you approach. The palace where you've spent your entire life suddenly feels different. The same corridors where you once played as a child now echo with the footsteps of conspirators. The same gardens where your tutors taught you philosophy and mathematics have become meeting places for advisors plotting your future. You notice how the servants' eyes dart away when you look at them, how conversations stop abruptly when you enter a room, how even your closest companions seem to be measuring their words with unusual care. Your sister Cleopatra, 18 years old and already displaying the intelligence and ambition that will make her legendary, watches these developments with calculating eyes. She's been groomed for power just as you have, educated in multiple languages, trained in statecraft, and prepared to rule an empire that spans from the cataracts of the Nile to the shores of the Mediterranean. But there's something in her gaze now that makes you uncomfortable, a hunger that seems to grow stronger each day since your father's death. The advisors explain the situation with the kind of clinical detachment that adults use when they're about to destroy a child's life. Egypt faces threats from multiple directions. Roman legions camp just beyond the kingdom's borders, their commanders watching for any sign of weakness. Internal rebellions simmer in the countryside, where native Egyptians chafe under Greek rule. The royal treasury, drained by years of tribute payments to Rome, can barely fund the armies needed to maintain order. In this crisis, they tell you, the kingdom needs strong leadership. It needs the legitimacy that only comes from the ancient bloodline of the Ptolemies. Most importantly, it needs the unity that can only be achieved through the sacred marriage between royal siblings, a tradition that has kept the dynasty pure for 300 years. You don't understand what they mean by sacred marriage, not at first. In your sheltered world of tutors and palace lessons, marriage has always been an abstract concept, something that happens to other people, in other kingdoms, for reasons of politics and alliance. You know that your ancestors practiced something called royal incest, but it's been presented to you as a noble tradition, a way of preserving the divine blood that makes your family worthy to rule. The full horror only becomes clear when Demetrius, your father's most trusted advisor, sits you down in the royal library and explains your destiny with the matter-of-fact tone of someone discussing trade negotiations. You will marry your sister Cleopatra in a ceremony that will unite your claims to the throne and present a unified front to both foreign enemies and domestic challengers. The marriage will be consummated according to ancient custom, ensuring the continuation of the royal bloodline and the legitimacy of any future heirs. The words hit you like physical blows. Marriage, consummation, heirs. These aren't abstract concepts anymore. They're your immediate future, approaching with the inexorability of a funeral procession. You try to object, to explain that you don't want to marry anyone, especially not your own sister. But Demetrius cuts you off with a look of genuine surprise. You speak as if you have a choice in the matter, he says, his voice carrying the weight of 3 centuries of tradition. You are not a common citizen who can follow the desires of his heart. You are a Ptolemy, and Ptolemies have responsibilities that transcend personal preference. Your bloodline is sacred, blessed by the gods themselves. To dilute it with foreign blood would be an act of sacrilege that could bring down the wrath of the heavens upon Egypt itself. The logic seems unassailable to everyone except you. Your tutors nod approvingly when Demetrius explains the theological necessity of your union. The high priests of the various temples send messages of support, blessing the marriage as a restoration of cosmic order. Even your younger siblings accept the arrangement with the resignation of people who have never known any world except one where royal children are chess pieces, moved according to the whims of dynastic politics. But you're 14 years old, and some part of you still believes that childhood should mean something, that innocence deserves protection, that there should be adults somewhere who care more about your well-being than about the continuation of a bloodline that has already produced generations of broken, twisted individuals who barely qualified as human beings. Oh, you begin to notice things about your family that you'd never questioned before. The way your great-aunt Arsinoe walks with a peculiar gait, her spine curved from some hereditary defect. How your uncle Ptolemy IX died young from seizures that the court physicians whispered about in hushed tones. The strange behavior of your cousin Ptolemy XI, who spent his brief reign talking to invisible courtiers and issuing decrees that made no sense to anyone around him. These aren't coincidences, you realize with growing horror. They're the inevitable result of generations of inbreeding, of a family so obsessed with preserving its bloodline that it has slowly poisoned itself from within. The sacred purity that your advisors praise so highly has created a dynasty of genetic defectives, rulers whose minds and bodies bear the unmistakable marks of hereditary decay. And now you're expected to continue this tradition, to add your own contribution to the family's slow descent into madness and physical deterioration. The crown that should represent the pinnacle of human achievement has become a curse that condemns its wearers to lives of suffering and abnormality. The wedding preparations begin immediately, and you watch with mounting dread as the palace transforms around you. Seamsters arrive with bolts of the finest silk, dyed in royal purple and gold thread, spun so fine it seems to catch light like captured starfire. Jewelers present necklaces and bracelets that once adorned queens whose names are carved in temple walls, their weight heavy with the accumulated suffering of generations. The very beauty of these preparations makes everything worse. How can something so magnificent be used to celebrate something so fundamentally wrong? Your sister seems to adapt to the situation with an ease that disturbs you more than any open resistance would. She attends the planning meetings with focused attention, discussing flower arrangements and ceremonial protocols as if this were any other royal wedding. When the dressmakers fit her for the traditional bridal robes, she stands perfectly still, her expression revealing nothing of whatever thoughts might be churning beneath that carefully composed surface. You try talking to her once, cornering her in the palace gardens where you used to play together as children. The conversation starts awkwardly. How do you even begin to discuss something like this with your own sister? But when you finally manage to stammer out your fears, your confusion, your desperate hope that maybe she shares your horror at what's being planned, her response chills you to the bone. "What did you expect would happen?" she asks, her voice carrying a note of genuine curiosity rather than sympathy. "Did you think you could remain a child forever? Did you imagine that being born into this family meant you would be free to choose your own path?" She studies your face with the analytical gaze of someone examining an interesting, but ultimately irrelevant specimen. "We are not people, brother. We are symbols, vessels for carrying forward something larger than ourselves. The sooner you accept this reality, the less painful your life will be." Her words reveal a truth that your 14-year-old mind struggles to process. Xiu has already made peace with this arrangement, perhaps even embraces it. While you've been agonizing over the wrongness of what's happening, she's been calculating how to use it to her advantage. The intelligence that makes her formidable as a future ruler also allows her to compartmentalize emotions that would cripple someone with a more conventional conscience. The ceremony takes place on a day when the summer heat makes the air shimmer like liquid glass. The great hall of the palace has been decorated with lotus flowers and papyrus reeds, symbols of Egypt's eternal fertility and the divine nature of pharaonic power. Hundreds of nobles fill the space, their faces a mixture of genuine celebration and carefully maintained political neutrality. They applaud at the appropriate moments, their voices echoing off marble walls that have witnessed similar ceremonies for 3 centuries. You stand at the altar wearing robes that feel like chains, the ceremonial crown pressing against your skull like a metal vice. The high priest intones blessings in ancient Egyptian, a language you barely understand despite years of tutoring. The words seem to hang in the incense-heavy air, creating an atmosphere that feels more like a funeral than a wedding. When Cleopatra joins you at the altar, her presence both familiar and utterly alien, you have the strangest sensation that you're watching someone else's life unfold. The vows you exchange have been written by court scribes, words crafted to invoke divine approval and political unity rather than express any genuine emotion. You promise to honor your sister as wife and co-ruler, to preserve the sacred bloodline through your union, to maintain the ancient traditions that have made Egypt great. The words feel like ash in your mouth, but you speak them because the alternative, refusing in front of the entire court, would mean immediate death or exile. When the priest declares you married according to the laws of gods and men, the assembled nobles cheer with enthusiasm that sounds genuine enough. They understand the political necessities that drive such arrangements, the practical benefits of keeping power concentrated within reliable bloodlines. To them, your obvious discomfort is merely the natural awkwardness of youth, something you'll grow out of once you mature into your responsibilities, but you know better. You can feel something fundamental breaking inside you, some essential part of your humanity being sacrificed to maintain a system that has already proven its corruption through generations of damaged rulers and failed dynasties. The crown on your head no longer feels like a symbol of authority. It feels like a mark of ownership, proof that you belong not to yourself, but to forces beyond your control or comprehension. The wedding feast that follows blurs together in a haze of forced smiles and congratulations from people whose names you can barely remember. Noble families present gifts that represent fortunes, golden statues, jeweled daggers, rare perfumes from distant lands, while offering toasts that praise your wisdom and maturity. The irony would be laughable if it weren't so tragic. Everyone celebrating your marriage also knows exactly why you look like someone attending your own execution. Oh, Cleopatra plays her part flawlessly, accepting congratulations with gracious smiles and making conversation that reveals her mastery of political subtleties. You're only beginning to understand. She seems genuinely comfortable in her new role, adapting to being called your queen with the same ease she once showed when learning new languages or studying military tactics. Her transformation is so complete that you begin to wonder if you ever really knew your sister at all, or if the person you grew up with was just another performance designed to hide her true nature. As the evening progresses and the wine flows more freely, the conversations around you become increasingly frank about what's expected to happen next. Older nobles share stories of their own political marriages, offering advice about managing dynasties and producing heirs with the casual tone people use when discussing livestock breeding. Their words make it clear that your wedding night isn't considered a private matter between two individuals. It's a state function with implications for the kingdom's future stability. The palace chambers that have been prepared for you as a married couple represent the ultimate manifestation of your new reality. Silk hangings in royal colors transform the space into something that should be beautiful, but feels more like an elaborate prison cell. Servants have arranged flowers and lit incense, creating an atmosphere intended to inspire romance, but instead, filling you with dread about what's expected to occur within these walls. The doors close behind you with a sound that echoes like the ceiling of a tomb, and suddenly, you're alone with your sister in a space that feels charged with expectations you're not ready to meet. The silence stretches between you, heavy with the weight of what everyone assumes will happen next. Cleopatra moves through the chamber with the same calculated grace she's displayed all day, examining the arrangements as if evaluating a military position rather than a bridal suite. "You're terrified," she observes, not looking at you as she speaks. It's not a question, just a statement delivered with the clinical precision of someone identifying a tactical weakness. Your fear is written across your face like hieroglyphs on a temple wall. The entire court can see it, and that makes us both vulnerable. You want to deny it, to summon some vestige of royal dignity, but the words stick in your throat. How can you explain that terror doesn't begin to capture what you're feeling? How do you articulate the sensation that your entire identity is being dissolved, that the person you thought you were is being systematically erased to make room for something else entirely? "I never wanted this." You finally manage, the words barely above a whisper. None of it. The crown, the marriage, the responsibility for an empire I don't understand. I just wanted to be left alone. Cleopatra turns to face you then, and for a moment, something almost resembling sympathy flickers in her eyes. But it's gone so quickly, you might have imagined it, replaced by the hard calculation that seems to be her natural state. What you wanted stopped mattering the moment you were born into this family. We are not permitted the luxury of personal desires. We are instruments of state policy, and instruments don't get to choose how they're used. The conversation that follows reveals the depth of the chasm between your understanding of the world and hers. While you've been clinging to childhood illusions about choice and autonomy, she's been preparing for a reality where such concepts are meaningless. She explains the political necessities that drove your marriage with the detached expertise of a general discussing battlefield tactics, outlining the various factions within the court, the Roman threats gathering on the borders, the economic pressures that could topple the dynasty if not carefully managed. "Our marriage isn't about us," she says, settling onto one of the silk-covered couches with practiced elegance. "It's about projecting stability to our enemies and unity to our subjects. The advisors need to see that the royal line continues unbroken, that the gods still favor our bloodline, that Egypt remains strong despite the chaos surrounding us. Whether we actually consummate this union tonight is less important than ensuring everyone believes we have." The relief that floods through you at these words is so intense, it's almost painful. For hours you've been dreading this moment, imagining horrors that your 14-year-old mind could barely comprehend. But Cleopatra's pragmatic approach offers an unexpected reprieve, a way to satisfy the court's expectations without crossing lines that feel utterly forbidden. Yet even as you grasp at this lifeline, you begin to understand the deeper trap you've walked into. Your marriage may not be consummated tonight, but it's still real. The legal bonds that tie you to your sister cannot be easily broken, and the political pressures that created this arrangement will only intensify as time passes. The advisors who engineered your wedding will expect results: heirs to secure the succession, displays of unity to reassure allies, evidence that their careful planning has achieved its intended goals. "You're thinking like a child," Cleopatra continues, reading your expression with uncomfortable accuracy. "You believe this is a problem with a simple solution, that we can somehow avoid our responsibilities indefinitely. But every day we delay only makes our position weaker. The court is watching for signs of discord. The Romans are probing for weaknesses, and our own subjects are wondering whether their new rulers have the strength to protect them. The months that follow your wedding become a masterclass in political theater and psychological manipulation. By day, you and Cleopatra present a united front to the court, appearing together at state functions, consulting on administrative decisions, and projecting the image of a harmonious royal couple. But the performance is exhausting, requiring constant vigilance to maintain the illusion that your marriage is anything more than a cynical political arrangement. Your sister proves to be a natural at this deception, adapting to her role as queen with the same ruthless efficiency she brings to everything else. She learns to touch your arm at precisely the right moments during public appearances, to smile at you with apparent affection when foreign ambassadors visit, to discuss your fictional marital happiness with courtiers who report every word back to potential enemies. Her acting is so convincing that you sometimes wonder if she's begun to believe her own performance. But the strain of living this lie begins to take its toll on your already fragile psyche. You find yourself jumping at unexpected sounds, your nerves frayed by the constant pressure of maintaining appearances. Sleep becomes elusive, your dreams filled with nightmares about being trapped in roles you never chose, pursued by shadowy figures who demand explanations for failures you don't understand. The palace that once felt like home now seems like an elaborate stage set, every room designed to facilitate performances that grow more demanding each day. The advisors who orchestrated your marriage watch your every move with predatory attention, evaluating your effectiveness as a political symbol and calculating how long your usefulness might last. Demetrius, in particular, seems to take pleasure in testing your resolve, arranging situations designed to push the boundaries of your comfort zone and measure your willingness to sacrifice personal feelings for dynastic necessities. Ptolemy XIII's story ended as tragically as it began. Within 3 years, he would be dead, murdered by his own advisors when his usefulness as a political symbol finally expired. His brief life serves as a haunting reminder that even the most powerful positions in history could become prisons for those born into them. The boy who should have ruled an empire instead became its victim, sacrificed to traditions that valued bloodlines over basic humanity. His ghost still whispers through the ruins of Alexandria, reminding us that behind every glittering dynasty lie the broken dreams of children who never had a choice.